Hello everyone. First off, let me set the stage for you before I move deeper into Dr. Monisha Pujari's story. Because what this hospice physician shared is not something most people talk about openly. As I recount this to you, I want you to really sit with it, because her words force us to confront questions we usually avoid. These are not abstract ideas. These are lessons shaped by real people, real endings, and real moments at the edge of life. She began by asking a question that immediately pulls you in. She said, "Let me ask you something. If you stop right now and think about dying, how many of you would choose to pass away quietly in your sleep? No warning, no symptoms, no fear, just gone." She explained that most people would answer yes to that without hesitation. Then she followed it with another question, and this is where the tone shifted. She asked, "If you were to die today, would you actually be ready?" No regrets, no words left unsaid, completely at peace. As I explain this to you, I want you to notice how uncomfortable that question is, because that discomfort is the point. According to her, most people are not ready. And she didn't sugarcoat it. She said honestly that most people do not die the way they imagine they will. The picture people carry of a peaceful, effortless passing is rarely how it unfolds. For most of us, dying is not easy, and for most of us, we are not prepared when the time comes. She went on to explain that asking people to think about death is a hard sell. We convince ourselves that death is far away. We tell ourselves we have plenty of time, and because of that belief, we delay dealing with the things that matter most, especially unresolved relationships and unfinished conversations. She said we avoid thinking about death entirely, and because of that, we fail to recognize it as the ultimate deadline. And whether we like it or not, that is exactly what it is. She reminded us that for most of our lives, we don't know when or how we will die. But what we do know, without exception, is that one day we will. And when that reality finally comes into focus, when death becomes real instead of theoretical, it reshapes how we see everything. At this point in her story, I want to pause and explain why her perspective carries weight. She isn't speculating. She isn't philosophizing from a distance. She shared that she has worked as a hospice and palliative care physician for more than a decade. Over that time, she has helped hundreds of patients transition out of life over days, weeks, and months. She has witnessed death at its most frightening and painful. But she has also seen something else that surprised even her. She said that when death is managed properly, it can open the door to something meaningful. Not easy, not painless, but meaningful. She explained it like this. Most of us know what a life coach is, someone who helps people live better. In her case, she said you could call her a death coach. Just as a life coach focuses on living well, she focuses on dying well. And here's the part that really struck me when I first heard it. She said that living well and dying well are far more connected than most of us ever realize. She told us that she wanted to offer a glimpse into the final chapters of some of her patients' lives, stories that over the last 10 years completely transformed how she views death. Because of those experiences, she no longer believes death needs to be treated as a forbidden or taboo subject that people are afraid to touch. She described death as one of two defining milestones in every human journey: being born into this world and eventually leaving it. Both are beautiful, both are unavoidable, and both are a privilege to be part of. She then explained something critical. Terminal illness is often a major part of the dying process. Statistically speaking, every single one of us will be affected by terminal illness at some point, either personally or through someone we love. She said the stories she was about to share were meant to show what good end-of-life care looks like and how proper management can completely transform the experience of dying. At this point, she said, "Let's begin with Michael." That's where her first patient story starts, and that's where things become very real. Before I continue with Michael's story, let me explain to you why she chose to start with him. According to her, pain is the fastest way to strip someone of dignity, clarity, and peace. And Michael's case showed her that if pain is not controlled, nothing else matters. She described Michael as an active, energetic man before his illness, but by the time he came under their care, he could barely function. He was overwhelmed by severe cancer pain and was desperate for relief. She explained that her team built his symptom and pain management plan from the ground up. Every medication, every adjustment, every decision was carefully chosen to support the others. She compared it to a house of cards, where each piece had to be placed precisely or the whole structure would collapse. According to her, the results were remarkable. Michael began to feel so much better that he asked to see his oncologist again. He wanted to know if further treatment might now be possible because, in his words, he felt like himself again. She said his oncologist was shocked by how healthy Michael looked. The doctor believed Michael had entered hospice too early and advised him to scale back his symptom management regimen. Michael followed that advice. That decision, she said, changed everything. The pain returned aggressively and without mercy. Michael's condition deteriorated quickly. His body and spirit unraveled. She explained that they had to restart and rebuild his entire pain management plan just to get him back to where he had been before. Eventually, they succeeded. She emphasized that proper pain control and symptom care gave Michael something invaluable. It gave him the ability to enjoy his remaining days with his wife. He could think, talk, connect, and be present. From Michael's experience, she said she learned a lesson she never forgot. When someone is in pain, pain becomes the only thing they can focus on. It consumes every thought. She explained to us that terminal illness inevitably leads to physical decline, and that decline brings symptoms like pain, breathlessness, and exhaustion. Hospice care allows those symptoms to be constantly adjusted and managed. That ongoing attention dramatically changes how a person experiences the end of life. Then she transitioned to the next story. She said, "Now let me tell you about Linda." Before getting into Linda's case, she paused to address a common misunderstanding. Most people think hospice is only for the final moments when there is no hope left. She said that idea is completely wrong. Hospice, in her words, is so much more than that. Linda was living with ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. She explained to the audience that ALS is a devastating neurological disease that leads to paralysis and ultimately respiratory failure. It is one of the most frightening diagnoses a person can receive. Linda's greatest fear was not death itself, but how she would die. She was especially afraid of suffocating or struggling to breathe. Because of that fear, Linda searched for a hospice program that would accept her while she was on a ventilator and manage her condition properly. Eventually, she found them. The physician explained that Linda passed away peacefully on Christmas Day. And in that moment, she knew they had handled an extraordinary case with care and compassion. She said that because Linda entered hospice early, something rare happened. Linda, her caregiver, and the medical team formed a deep and meaningful bond. Caring for Linda changed them as much as it helped her. The key to Linda's experience, she explained, was awareness. Linda understood exactly where she was in her illness. She accepted how terminal it was. That understanding allowed her to make the right choice at the right time, choosing early hospice care instead of waiting until the last possible moment. At this point in her talk, she said, "Not every story unfolds that way." That's when she introduced John. Before I share John's story the way she told it, let me pause here and explain why this case mattered so deeply to her. According to her, John represented what happens when honesty is delayed and when people are kept in the dark for too long. His story wasn't about lack of care, it was about lack of clarity. She explained that John had been sick for several years. She personally knew his family, which made this case even more difficult. One afternoon, she received a call from John's daughter. Her voice, she said, carried exhaustion, fear, and confusion all at once. John's daughter told her that her father had been in unbearable pain for weeks. She had taken him to multiple doctors. She had asked question after question. Yet no one had given her a clear answer about what was really happening. She told the physician, "I don't know what's going on. I've taken him everywhere, and no one is explaining what's wrong." The physician said she listened carefully. She let the daughter speak without interruption. After hearing everything, she gave her professional assessment plainly and directly. She told her that John was dying. She said he was in a pain crisis and likely had days to weeks left. She described the silence on the other end of the line. The daughter was stunned. She believed her immediately, but she could not understand how no one else had been honest with her until that moment. The physician explained that she recommended John enter hospice immediately. There was no time to waste. Once hospice care began, she said they implemented an aggressive pain management plan. Slowly, John stabilized. His pain came under control. His body relaxed enough to allow him something precious: time. She said John was able to spend several meaningful weeks with his family. Weeks filled with conversations, connection, and moments that would have been impossible if the pain had continued unchecked. Later, John's daughter told her how grateful they were. She said the right guidance at the right time gave them closure they never would have had otherwise. This is where the physician paused again and explained something crucial. Good management, she said, is not just about medications or timing hospice correctly. It is also about telling people the truth about where they are so they can make the most of what remains. Then she moved to her final story, Grace. Before telling Grace's story, she acknowledged how difficult it is to tell someone how much time they have left. But she stressed that this honesty changes everything. It allows people to prioritize what truly matters. Grace was living with metastatic cancer. She had recently come home from the hospital, and doctors estimated she had only weeks left to live. Grace had one final wish. She wanted to see her daughter get married. The physician explained that instead of dismissing that wish as unrealistic, the team asked a different question. How can we make this happen? What followed, she said, was creative teamwork. They essentially turned Grace's home into a hospital. Medical equipment, staff coordination, and planning all came together so Grace could attend her daughter's wedding from her hospital bed. She described Grace as radiant that day. Present, peaceful, fully there. She said without that level of creative management and cooperation, Grace and her family would have missed that moment entirely. The miracle wasn't the wedding itself. The miracle was the opportunity to experience it. She emphasized that end-of-life care is not only about grand moments. Every moment matters when time is short. Helping someone breathe easier, feel calmer, or think more clearly can bring profound peace. As she approached the conclusion of her talk, she addressed the audience directly. Most of us, she said, live focused on how not to die. That mindset causes us to avoid conversations about death entirely. Her goal with this talk was to shift that mindset toward how to die better. She reminded everyone that avoiding death is not realistic. We will all die. Learning how to die better means embracing the full cycle of life, from birth to death. She said terminal illness is never easy, but hospice care and thoughtful management can significantly reduce suffering. More than that, it can open the door to some of the most meaningful moments people will ever experience. She concluded by saying, there are good ways to manage death, and there are poor ways. When people hear the word terminal, she wants them to think hospice not as an end, but as care. Hospice, she said, means comfort, quality, opportunity, and peace with loved ones and oneself. Before we close this out, let me speak directly to you, because this conversation doesn't end here. Stories like this are not meant to be watched and forgotten. They are meant to stay with us, to challenge us, and to change how we think about life, death, and the moments in between. If anything in this story resonated with you, I want to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what part moved you the most. Have you experienced something similar with a loved one? Or did this change how you think about hospice and end-of-life care? If you believe these conversations matter, help this message reach more people. Like this video so the algorithm knows it's worth sharing. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because we continue to have honest, thoughtful discussions that mainstream conversations often avoid. Most importantly, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. These stories can open doors, start conversations, and bring clarity where there is fear or silence. Stay engaged, stay curious, stay willing to ask the hard questions, and thank you truly for being part of this community.